Hi there, gamers. Here we go. Mechanical Zone. We're getting away from the nature of the other games. No more Green Hill, no more ice, no more jungle, no more blue sky. It's just 2026 here in Sonic World. There's machines, there's rising CO2 levels in the atmosphere, there are dead animals, there's deforestation. It's pretty bad. Look, there's a moto bug from the first game. Don't you remember the first game? Sonic had a nostalgia crisis back from like the early 2010s till now. I think he still is banking on nostalgia. I don't know what game doesn't have Green Hill Zone. If there's a game that doesn't have Green Hill Zone and a new Sonic game, it's just, to Sega, it's not a new Sonic game. So they just rely on it so much. We're not even Green Hill anymore, and we have the moto bugs from the levels. Oh my goodness. Anyways, how we doing? We doing okay? I'm doing alright. I'm gonna try to get that red ring. There we go. I got the red ring. And so far, we've got all the red rings except one in one of the earlier levels. We'll see what I do, or how I do in this. Already getting through Act 1. Doing great. Getting some rings in the process. So, this is the final zone of the game. This is it. There is nothing past Mechanical Zone. So when we beat the final boss of this zone, that will actually be the final zone, the final boss. I'm not going to be like, oh, will he save the day? He's going to save the day once we get there. Now, this isn't the final part of the commentary. This is just, I want to do an Infinity War Endgame thing, or for Harry Potter fans, a Deathly Hollow Part 1, Deathly Hollow Part 2 sort of thing, where we break up the finale in two parts. So this part's going to be a little bit shorter compared to the previous parts, which is good. You know, how many minutes on end can you watch Sonic jumping and me talking about it? You know, it's better to listen to it for 10 minutes than close to like 30 minutes or so, like it's usually been. We have bats, like in Blue Sky Zone. We have moving, like, platforms. We have like bomb enemies. Like it's almost reminiscent of all the previous levels, except it's mechanical. Except Eggman wins and takes over this beautiful landscape. And there's like a nice background JPEG. It's pretty cool. It looks like a big warehouse factory or something in the sky. Looks like it kind of looks like, if you look close at the background... Oh, I got a message. If you look close at the background, it looks like some sort of factory, but it looks like it's an Amazon warehouse. So, I'd like to think that Sonic is fighting Amazon in this game. Because he's all about the woodland creatures. He's all about the forest and protecting everything, you know. Is he getting a little greedy, getting the rings, kind of like Jeff Bezos? Maybe a little bit, you know, but he's going to try to take him down. So in my headcanon, Sonic's fighting Amazon right now, and that's pretty cool. I say that, and I'm getting an Amazon package, like, in the next few days. I'm getting some food for my frog. If you look behind me, that fish tank, that's one of my frogs. It's an African clawed frog. I could tell you the story about how I got him. So I used to work at a science center, and I was the head animal keeper. I was in charge of all the animals there. And some kid's walking with a little water cup, and I'm like, all right, maybe we got a fish. Like, what's going on? I knew there was something in there. And then I open the door, and the mom greets me by saying, like, you guys taking frogs, right? I'm like, we don't. It wasn't a place where this isn't like an animal rehab center. It's an education facility, and occasionally we'll take in a rescue. So if they called me on the phone and said we had this type of frog, I would have politely said, you know, unfortunately, we're not going to accept it. But I would have given them resources on where they could take this frog. But I saw this little frog in this tiny little cup, and he looks like he was not going to survive long. I mean, frogs don't live in tiny cups, you know. There's not much in a tiny cup for a frog. Most, not even a fish. So I said, I'll take it. So I took it personally. And there's two types of aquatic frogs that it could have been because it was so small. An African dwarf frog, which is smaller, or an African clawed frog, which gets a lot bigger and can potentially live up to 20, maybe 30 years, compared to like the 5, 10, maybe 15 years of the dwarf frog. So it turns out that it was a clawed frog. I took it in. My coworker had dwarf frogs, and if that was a dwarf frog, he would have just added it because they're social creatures. African clawed frogs will eat anything that moves, so you don't want an African clawed frog with other frogs. So I took him. I've had him for a few years now. Upgraded his tank, and he's living the best life. When I rescue a lot of animals, most of my animals that I have are rescues, and I asked the kid, so what's his name? Because I like to keep the names of the animals that I rescue. For example, my first leopard gecko, who I still have, his name is Rex. And I didn't name him Rex. It's a generic name. Someone else did. So I kept Rex. I have another leopard gecko. His name is Harry, because his owners were huge Harry Potter fans. So I kept the name Harry. And I asked the kid about this frog, and he said his name is Bug Eater. Bug Eater. Now, I have a policy of keeping the names, but I had to break my own rule, and we're not calling him Bug Eater. As long as I live and breathe and he lives and breathes, he will no longer be called Bug Eater. So I was trying to think, what's a good name for this aquatic frog who's going to grow and get really big? But when I saw him, he was in a very swampy cup. And I'm a nerd. Swamp, nerdy things. Swampert from Pokemon. So I named him Swampert. And he's been a good boy, and he does love his bugs. I love feeding him bugs. But, well, he is a bug eater. His name shouldn't be Bug Eater. You know, Sonic, he has a cool name, Sonic. He's not like Sir Jumps-a-Lot or something. He's not Bluey McBloops or like Clown Shoes or like Mickey Mouse Gloves. His name is Sonic because that's a cool name. I'm not giving an animal an adjective name. Like, it's like calling Eggman Baldy McNosehair, which he did. In Sonic Colors, he called Eggman Baldy McNosehair, and I think it stuck for a few games. So it was a very dark era of being a Sonic fan. Especially someone who would one day be Baldy McNosehair himself. Yeah. Yeah, folks. This is real. This isn't AI. I don't know why I'd want to make myself AI bold. I'm bold for real. Okay, so we've made it. This is the end of the part. This is the halfway boss, but for the sake of part 5 of this commentary, this is going to be the boss before we end. And as you hear, I can't hear because the volume's low for me. I don't think there's any music. It's just sound effects. This is definitely the most annoying, this is the most, sensory grating boss that we've encountered so far and will encounter. I think the final boss also has no music. I think it's to make it dramatic. I mean, I think music makes it dramatic. I mean, Sonic is known for its music. But, maybe the problem with Sonic music is it's just too good. And it's hard to take a threat seriously when you're jamming. Like, if a great tragedy happens. If, I don't know, there was a huge explosion in the house right next to me, but my favorite song came on, would I feel bad? Oh, 100%. Would I feel as bad as I would if my favorite song wasn't on? I don't know. So, the Sonic Jump devs were absolute geniuses, and they got rid of the music, so now you have to face the fat guy. You have to face Eggman and fight him. You can't bob your head to this. There's missiles, there's saws, there's enemies, things that explode. This is scary stuff. There's a guy that wants to kill a little woodland creature. This is not stuff that, you should feel comfortable about. When you show your kid Sonic, it's not a cute little thing. You should tell them how serious it is. There's a human that wants to kill this little hedgehog, which is ridiculous. You know, what do hedgehogs do to humans? And this human wants to take over the world. He wants to turn everything into robots. He wants to be a dictator. These aren't things that we should celebrate. Eggman's scary. He's evil. He's a bad dude, and we shouldn't get little action figures of him. We should say, hey, we should learn from our Sonic games so this never happens again. So we learn and we don't repeat history and have this guy intimidate little cute hedgehogs. Not that this has ever happened in history, but maybe it could. Probably not, but maybe it could. Alright, going through the saws, and here we're going to save the animals, but just know that there are, 6 more levels from here on out. So that was the halfway boss, which is going to be the same. I got a D. D for, did okay. Did good enough. Yeah. And that's Act 7. We'll get there in the next part. We'll see you real soon. Peace, love, toodles, and of course, sayonara.